I believe in aliens. I believe in exorcism. Because you know that what trauma's like because you've been through it, and that's why you're like that. Society today where it's like, how do I fix this the fastest I can fix it? Why do you need to be surrounded by shit all the time? Like, why?
Welcome to Tea with Tori. I'm your host, Tori, and today the tea is hot.
Tee. So I did a thing. I did it again. But you know what? Let's fucking get into it. What's up, spillers? Welcome to season 2 of Tea with Tori. Season fucking 2. Lord Jesus. I don't know. I guess when I first started this, it was not a journey that I knew where it was going anywhere. I just felt like it was something that I needed to do, that I needed to figure out what women do to make them so incredible, because I feel like all women are incredible, and rarely do women get a light shined on them unless it's to prop up a man, technically. So behind every great man is an even better woman type thing. So I know in my first episode, I was like, oh, I might interview men eventually. As of right now, still as it stands, absolutely not. Just every time that I wrap a taping with one of the incredible women that I've taped with, it just literally is therapeutic to me. It's inspiring. It has pulled me out of some of my lows. There have been times when I don't even want to podcast, or I don't feel like anyone cares what I have to say or what I'm doing with this. And it takes sometimes one of those amazing women coming in and telling me their story about things that they've overcome. And it literally, in that podcast, rips me out of my depression and out of my like doubting mindset right off the rip, like automatically. So if that's even just doing that for one other person out there, then there is a reason that I'm here. There's a reason that I'm doing this. There's a reason that you found this podcast. Of course, Tori tangent. I'm going to go off on all the tangents. That's just literally, it's what I do. I can't stay on one linear point of conversation, but let's get into it. All right, spillers. So first of all, if you haven't caught on, I call y'all the spillers because y'all be out here spilling the tea. And that is what I'm going to stand by. Y'all are the spillers. If you don't like it, kick rocks. Thank you. And secondly, I, of course, procrastinated even telling you this in the podcast. We're almost 3 minutes in, and I have not even informed you of something crazy that is going to happen next week. So I shot about 8 or 9 episodes for season 2 already before today. Yes, I'm sorry. This will be out of order. Not really that I'm sorry, but I am more so just informing you. I am a very firm believer in what's meant to be will be, what's meant to happen will happen. And I don't know why it's meant to be this way, but I guess it is. I completely pushed off filming my episode 1, and I shot with 8 or 9 other guests for season 2. Those women are freaking amazing. I cannot wait for you to see those episodes. I'm, of course, still taping additional episodes, but it's just crazy to me because you're going to see this episode and then it's going to like rewind back in time before I was in Miami, before I was in Guatemala, before all of these things that have kind of shaped who I am right now and kind of changed me to the core. So it's just going to be really interesting for you guys to kind of see into the future and then look back on how I got here over the past couple of weeks. So it has been a roller coaster. There have been a lot of ups and downs. One of the things that I have struggled with in the past is consistency and sticking to something for a long period of time. I tend to fall off or to get bored or to find some type of reason to fall off of my original path and plan. And I don't know, with this podcast, it feels different to me. It feels like I'm not just working on this for myself, if that makes any sense. Like, not that I have a partner. This is my podcast. I do this solo dolo. Not that there's any one person holding me accountable to staying consistent with this podcast, but more so the fact that, man, I just wish I had a podcast like this when I was growing up. I literally, like, I can't really think off the top of my head. I'm sure someone's going to comment or someone's going to give me one, but that's all the better to me. Please tell me some strong, successful, powerful women that are doing podcasts like this. I don't really know anyone that's only interviewing women. It seems like such a space that is unoccupied, and it kind of upsets me because there's so many podcasts that are geared towards men. There's so many things in life that are geared specifically towards men that I feel like anytime you talk about things being geared towards women, it's more so about a diet plan or about a wedding or marriage or something that has to do with the more stereotypical definition of being a woman in society. So I really set out on this journey to interview all different types of women that are unhappy in their current place in their lives, women that are happy in their current place in their lives, women who are in the midst of discovering success for themselves, in the process of losing success, in the process of being at the height of their success, just women in all different walks of life. I wanted to hear their stories, and I still do. I'm going to continue, but this started with me wanting to hear their story because I feel like it's a story that's very untold. A lot of people wait till they become successful to kind of reveal their rags to riches stories, and I feel like it's always kind of sugar-coated because, of course, along the way, you miss things that you are going through in the moment and you get over them and then they're kind of gone. It's like when you're learning math and you're struggling on addition and then you finally get addition and it's like, oh, I can't even believe that I ever didn't understand that. So to me, it's just with everyone, the way that they are going about life, how do you break through? How do you inspire? How do you truly, because like what people technically call me as an influencer, I have a large following online, therefore I'm an influencer, but I got into this mentality a few years ago of like, what am I influencing? Like, what am I influencing people to do? Why are people influenced by the things that I do and say? And am I guiding them in a direction that I believe in? And that has kind of set off this bomb that's like splintered my life a bit because there were a few brands that I was representing that I did not believe in. There were a few aspects of my life that I really, you get into a survival mindset and you start to kind of compromise certain things about yourself, and you kind of surround yourself with people who are doing the exact same thing. And when that happens, it's kind of like you kind of numb yourself to the way that you truly feel about something and the way that your soul is actually resonating with it. And through doing my yoga studies to get certified as a yoga teacher, my 200 hours of vinyasa training, and I've been doing this economics class, and part of what was in the class is you do a current character worksheet and you do a future character worksheet, and you're supposed to compare the two and see where there are discrepancies and see where you need to change. And I looked at my current character worksheet, and you're supposed to be like brutal with yourself. You're supposed to like tear yourself apart. And then your dream character worksheet, which is all the things that you see for yourself in the future and the person that you want to be. I looked at these two sheets of paper, and when I tell you they were polar opposites, like nothing was happening on one side that I wanted to be happening on the other. I really just sat there and like had to really have a like serious self-talk with myself, because the person that I aspire to be was in that time so far from the person that I was showing up in the world as, and that was very jarring to me. That it's like like I said before, like you kind of get lost in it. You kind of get lost in surrounding yourself with like-minded people, and survival mode definitely like convinces you and kind of makes it okay for you to do certain things that you don't want to do or you didn't want to do if you were not in survival mode. And I'm not at all shading anyone in survival mode or the things that anyone does for survival. I literally always say never judge someone by what they have to do for survival, because you never know what you would do in the same situation. However, it is important to recognize that you cannot live your life in survival mode. You cannot keep excusing certain behavior for survival mode, and you cannot live in fight or flight mentality. That does not work. That is not where you are meant to exist. And so many people spend majority of their life, if not their entire life, in this like traumatized fight or flight mentality where all the decisions that they're making are based out of fear. They're based out of not really understanding what truly makes you happy and what you truly want in this world and where your soul is genuinely resonating. So that has been kind of like, again, tangent. That has been the journey that I have been on, is really trying to discover within myself, like, what is resonating with me, what is making me happy. Not like, because the land of social media, it's never really about you. It's about what is going to resonate with your base and your following. So if you kind of get away from who you are, it's very easy for social media to amplify that character that you're playing. So it's a business. It's not like people are just posting for these brands for free. It's a business. So then you're tying your income to it. It's a whole thing. And for a while, I had been feeling a disconnect between my social media presence and the way that I'm viewed online, and the way that I genuinely show up in the world with my friends and my peers and the people that really know me and really care about me. And I've been trying over the past few months to incorporate more of myself into my social media. It has not been easy. It has definitely been a work in progress, and I'm changing things up every day. But I think that part of kind of like becoming myself and owning up to who I am is recognizing that it's an everlasting journey. It is never done. You're never done healing your trauma. You're never done discovering yourself. It's a constant discovery process. And just when you find that you have discovered yourself, you change, or something in life changes, or some traumatic event happens to you or around you or to someone that you love, and suddenly there's a whole new level of self-work to be done. But I'm going to switch topics now. I'm going to take a little skirt because as I'm talking about like finding myself, I want to take a second to not only thank you, Spillers. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for listening and downloading and watching my podcast weekly. It's something that I take a lot of pride in, that I am super grateful for every single download, for every single watch, for every single comment, for every single follow on those accounts. Like, this is me at my rawest form. It's me and a microphone and my camera in my bedroom. Like, I'm just here talking to you about the things that I'm going through in my life and the things I think. And then I have these women on who also come on and we talk about the things that we feel and that we think together. Like, it's an amazing thing to me. And I'm so grateful that you guys support me through this journey, and you guys have continued to watch and listen to my podcast and just be a sense of community that has evolved and grown with me over these past few months. And I'm so grateful for you guys. I'm so grateful for every single woman that has come onto my podcast and shared her story. I'm literally getting goosebumps just thinking about it. I have some stories that coming, actually, some of them, but I have a few already that have been really hard for people to share, and that before or after we talk about these things, they say, oh my God, I've never talked about that with anyone, or I've never talked about that openly in a public space. Or it's very easy to kind of feel like no one's watching when I'm shooting my podcast, because it's literally just me, my guest, in a room with no one else, with my phone recording and with the equipment that I set up myself. So it starts to, after some time, turn into a very personable, very relaxed setting, and that enables a lot of people to release certain information about themselves, or not even release, but tell stories about themselves that they may not have told in another space where they felt less comfortable. And that's why, in addition to thanking every single woman that has been on this show, I would like to thank especially the women who allowed me to come film in their space. That is a huge deal to me. That does not go unappreciated or unseen by me. That is why I have traveling podcast equipment, because I wanted to be able to go into someone else's space where they're truly comfortable, relaxed in themselves, and get to know them on an even deeper level than you even would if you went out for a cup of coffee. Because every time I sit down and do these podcasts, I'm not on my phone doing other things. I'm not listening halfway to the TV. There's nothing else happening but me speaking to my guest or to myself in this situation, which is weird as hell. Well, actually, I'm speaking to you guys, but in this moment right now, this feels like I feel a little bit like I am lost at sea, and I'm doing like a self diary, like to my children, to Jupiter, to D-Cut. I love you. Like this, I literally feel like I'm doing like a video journal entry. So I guess that's why it comes off a little scattered when I don't have guests, because my brain is a little scattered. Like if you look, I'm writing a little blog. If you look at like my journal entries, essentially, which is what the blog is, it is scattered because I have ADD, and as opposed to heavily medicating me as a child, my parents just tried to always keep me interested in things, and that involves constantly changing the topic. Look, I'm literally like shaking my legs right now and like getting jumbled up talking about stuff like that. Deep breath. I'm gonna sip some water. Oh my god, where's my water? Do I remember what the fuck I was talking about? Absolutely not. So we move on. One of the points that I really wanted to touch on in this episode is something that I'm sure a majority of you have heard a billion times. It's not a new statement. I did not create this. There are plenty of memes about this and quotes and blah, 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 but success is not linear. And I feel like social media and people in general, even just having a conversation with someone, it's very rare that someone admits their flaws, their defeats, their failures, the things that society kind of teaches you to be embarrassed about. It's very rare that people admit those. If anything, they'll either omit them or they will exaggerate their successes even to make you think that how could this person ever have a failure? And that is something I have strived really hard to not do on this podcast, because you can watch all 30 episodes before this. There is times when my makeup is perfectly done, my hair is done, I have a cute outfit on. There's times when it's not, and I've just really tried to reflect exactly who I am and what I'm going for in my life. I smoke on this podcast. I'm open about psychedelics. I'm open about my entire journey. Especially when I have a guest on and we start going back and forth and sharing with each other, it's almost impossible to meet someone unauthentically when they're meeting you so authentically. And that's kind of one of the lessons that this podcast has taught me, and life has kind of taught me, is if you approach things authentically, it's really, really hard for people to not meet you there. And if they, for some reason, can't meet you there, it's really easy for you to spot that they're being inauthentic once you are being authentic. And authenticity takes vulnerability that not many people have, because it's kind of a quality that gets a bad rap as you grow up, to be vulnerable. The vulnerable kids get bullied. The vulnerable kids get taken advantage of. Nice guys finish last. Any quote that you can think about never really prizes vulnerability, and I feel like vulnerability is the easiest way to get to know someone. It's you at your rawest form. It's you being authentic. It's you trusting someone enough to share that with them. But it's even as simple as not telling someone you're running late because there's traffic, but because you left a little bit late, you overshot your time, whatever it is. It's just being authentic. Instead of giving an excuse for something, just be like, yeah, I did do that. I'm sorry, or I'm not, so whatever you are. But yeah, I did that, and just owning up to who you are and what you're doing. And that's literally I for a second almost pulled one of the episodes you'll see later to make it the episode 1, just because I didn't want to admit to you guys and admit to anyone really other than myself that I was scared to shoot this episode, which sounds crazy because I have literally like over 50 hours of podcast now, over 60 hours of podcast now recorded of me talking. But it's almost, and this is something I have to be careful of, clearly, it's almost like I began to rely on my co-hosts and my guests as a crutch, because one of the things that people have said that I love about my podcast is that I do really give people the space to talk. I don't interrupt people. I really let them talk about themselves and I ask them questions. However, it kind of takes some of the pressure off me, because it's me asking questions. It's me kind of deep digging on people's lives instead of sharing authentically what's happening in my life. And I will counter what they say or talk about something that I can relate to as well that's happened for me in my life. But it's different when you're the one being picked apart, when you're the one that is in the hot seat, that is getting questioned. And I was kind of nervous to question myself the way that I question my guests, just because it's kind of like having a conversation with yourself, which has always been a problem for me. It's like going live on social media platforms has always been a problem for me, unless there's like an action that I'm doing just to speak for an extended period of time with no give and take. I'm an energy person, and I love to, of course, only good energy. I love to share energy with people, and this is sharing energy with myself, which again relates back to my issues with self-worth and my issues with really struggling to put myself first and love myself. And that again has and always will be a work in progress, because you never stop doing that journey. You never stop doing that work. You're always on a constant mission to find yourself and return to yourself and find yourself again and figure out who the fuck you are and what you want out of this life. And I don't know, it's just really hard for me to do sometimes, to really like sit there and be like, Tori, I love you. Like that just made me feel weird. Why did that make me feel weird? Why does something that should be so genuinely easy for me, like telling myself that I love myself, why is that something that I struggle with? And at the end of the day, it comes down to self-worth and really believing that you deserve love, and that you are someone that deserves the love that you give out to others. And it's crazy because I can give love to everyone else so effortlessly, like easily, even people that don't deserve it in my eyes, even people that are choosing to actively be negative towards me or harm me. I still have some kind of ability to step back and be like, approach the situation with love. Until it comes to myself, I really struggle with beating myself up mentally over different things that I go through in my life. And one of them is I'm someone that I can stay on track for I'm literally about to tear up about this. I'm someone that stays on track for a really solid period of time, and then I don't know what happens. I get depressed. I get I doubt myself, I fall off in some way, and that only makes me feel more depressed and doubt myself even more. And then I get anxious about it, and then it's just like this self-fulfilling prophecy where I don't want to get out of bed for 3 days. And it's really something that I struggle with, no one really talks about this stuff. You're supposed to keep it positive. You're supposed to just always be on the up and up, but sometimes it really is on the super down. Sometimes life really does give you lemons, and lemonade is not an option. And it's been a process for me to believe that I deserve the love that I give to others, and to really sit with myself and think about why I would ever feel like I didn't in the first place. And I don't know, I'm still trying to kind of figure that out and try to get to the bottom of it. But at the end of the day, you can get to the bottom of the well, you still know that it's made out of dirt, So it's just learning healthy coping mechanisms for when you start feeling down like that, learning how to self-talk yourself in a way that lifts you up. And one of the things that I've learned in my yoga training is compassionate self-forgiveness. And it's not like acting like it didn't happen. It's not acting like you didn't think to yourself for a second, oh my God, I'm so stupid. It's forgiving yourself for that thought, saying, Tori, I forgive you for thinking that you're stupid, because you know that that is the furthest thing from the truth. So I forgive you for ever thinking that that could be the reality. And it kind of creates this lightness in you where it's not, because then you're like, oh, I'm stupid. And then you feel bad about the fact that you thought that you were stupid. And it's just kind of this, again, a self-fulfilling prophecy that brings you further down, instead of being compassionate with yourself and understanding that we all have mental fluctuations. We all have things that kind of cloud our judgment and thoughts that creep in that aren't the best feeling thoughts. And it's important for us to forgive ourselves for thinking that way and remind ourselves that that is not the truth, and remind ourselves who we are and what we stand for. And that this is my favorite saying that I have gotten from my yoga training. It's, you are a divine, I can't even remember it now off the top of my head. You're divine. I need to take a second. That's what it is. It's stopping me. Okay. You are a divine being living in a human existence. And I don't know why that resonates so deeply with me. I've literally had this saying in my bio on Instagram for a while, in the world, but not of it. Like, I exist here, but I'm like not of it. And your whole soul journey is essentially you being in the world, but not of it, recognizing that there's things in this plane, in this world, that you need to go through, lessons that you need to learn, karma you need to resolve in order for your soul to ascend higher. And our job also down here is to not get too caught up in like the material things, in the money, in the success, in the fame, in the biggest house, in the fastest car. It's just a lot of what I've realized since I moved to California. And I don't know if it's because California is like the most glamorous place in America. Like, if you watch any show, any movie, it's, oh my God, are you going to Hollywood? We're going to Hollywood. All of American Idol, you're going to Hollywood. Like, it's the glamorous place. You assume that everyone's happy, it's sunny, it's the beach, everyone's creative, everyone's doing their thing, following their dreams. And then to get out here and see people who had acquired all these things that I thought that I wanted so much, and see how they were still so genuinely unhappy, really changed my perspective. I realized that the things that you want in life, it's nice to want things, but it's important to know that these things, the things is what they are. They're never going to bring you joy. And although you're kind of driven by that hole that you feel, the trauma hole is what I like to call it, you're kind of driven by that, thinking that if you get the newest car, if you get the best house, the hottest girl, hottest guy, the best job, you're making the most money, like that's automatically going to turn into you being happy. And not only myself have I experienced this, but I've watched this in others. It's never going to make you happy. And I'm not going to sit here and say that money's not nice, success isn't nice, fame isn't nice. All these things, of course, are things to desire and aspire to. However, it's when you start to set up your mentality to think that these things will create happiness, or these things are happiness, that you start to find that disconnect in people, and you start to really see people get more depressed than I've ever seen in my life. It's like people, before they acquire these things that they think are meant to make them happy, they still have hope. And it's like, oh, I feel so shitty right now, but like once I get that car, I'm going to be happy. Or like once I'm an actor that books a feature role on a movie, I'll be happy. Like once I become CEO of that company I've been working at for 10 years, I'll be happy. And then you achieve these goals and you realize not only do you only have higher goals to set for yourself, if you even acknowledge the fact that you hit your original goal to begin with, but you're not necessarily happy. And money at the end of the day can buy happiness in the way of, if you love dogs and you want to rescue dogs and you want to create a dog shelter, and the money that you make, you are able to give back to dog shelters, or even you make your money through different charities and different things having to do with saving dogs. Yes, every dollar you make will make you happy because it has a purpose to you. It has some type of emotional attachment to it. You can travel around the world and have freedom of time and freedom, financial freedom. These are things that cause happiness. It's not the actual money. It's not the actual things. It's having the time to go spend with your parents, and having the time and the money to fly home and see your grandparents that you haven't seen in a year. It's getting to spend those moments and that time with people and with yourself that are meaningful, and less so the things that occupy the time and the space where your happiness flourishes, if that makes any sense. At my point, I'm not even making the most money that I've ever made in my life right now. And at the point in my life when I tell you, I was more depressed than I have ever been in my life. Like, it was literally at the height of my depression. I'm like, I always thought that if I was making money like this, I'd be happy. And not only am I unhappy, I'm depressed, because now I have the realization that is not going to lead even to happiness for me. And that's something that I realized within the past year of my life. And I really have to give a shout out to my man, because he has not only lifted me up while I go through my low periods, but he never fails to take an opportunity to remind me of my worth, remind me how amazing I am, even if I don't think so myself, remind me of all the things that your partner is meant to remind you of, and to prop you up in a way that is only inspiring and beneficial for you, and love you until you can love yourself enough. And it's just really going through the hard times with each other that makes you really appreciate everything that the other one stands for. And it's really my first healthy relationship that I've ever my first healthy romantic relationship that I've ever been in. So huge shout out to you, my love, for taking the time to work through all my trauma with me, because I have been through some horrid relationships. So I give him hella props for that. There's a lot of trauma that you don't realize you even have, because it's trauma based around a relationship. So you can be single and heal all the trauma that you want, but at the end of the day, once you get into a committed romantic relationship, a whole bunch of new trauma is about to flare up, because you haven't had another person in your life like that since the last toxic person that was there. So there's definitely a lot of self-work that I had to do in this relationship. There's a lot of trauma in relationships that I had to heal in this relationship, and it takes a very strong partner to go through those things. And that's why just like money and fame will not make you happy, just being in a relationship will not make you happy either. Because again, like the time period I just talked about, there was a time in my life where had a boyfriend, thought everything was amazing, was going to be amazing once I had this boyfriend. And again, I was more depressed than I had ever been in my life. I had never felt so alone. I had never felt so isolated from my friends and family, because I knew that if anyone got too close to the situation, they would really see what was happening and how unhappy I was. And it's just bad relationships, bad jobs, bad friendships, bad surroundings can really weigh you down and can really start to change who you are as a person. So as much as they say, like, you can't just move to a new city and be a new person, like wherever you go, you follow you. If you are someone who you're like, I need to change, and you're about to do a huge change on yourself, then I do kind of promote changing your surroundings. I was living in New York, and because I'm born and raised in Manhattan, like lived in New York my whole life, I had gotten into these patterns and these habits that I knew were so unhealthy for me. And my hair was brittle, my skin was terrible. I didn't look healthy. I didn't look happy. I looked like I was genuinely holding on to life by a thread, and that is how I felt. I literally looked at my parents and I was like, look, I need to move, because if I don't move, I'm going to die. And although that sounds dramatic, I wasn't saying I was instantly going to die. I just knew the patterns that I was in, the life that I was perpetuating. I tried so hard to get out of these habits and these patterns, and it never worked. I would change for a few days, maybe a week, and I would fall right back into an old pattern. I would fall right back into doing the things that I knew were bad for me and were not bringing my ultimate happiness. But I felt like I was drowning in the middle of the ocean, and someone would hand me a life raft. And when they would hand it to me, they would poke a little hole. So like it would keep me up for a while, but after so long of drowning and there being a hole in my life raft, it would be empty. And if anything, it'd be weighing me down more than it was even keeping me up. So that is when I knew, I was like, I need to change who I am as a person. My phone. Where should I even jump back in? You see how quickly I get thrown off of my topic? But I feel like I was done talking about that topic then, if it's not coming back to me. And I'm sure some of you are sitting there like, you were just talking about this. Yeah, I know. Super easy from the spectator's perspective to remember these things. I know, because I do it to my guests all the time. They'll be like, what was I talking about? I'm like, you were talking about this, because I'm genuinely intently listening. But right now, you're literally just getting my word vomit. You're getting my thought process straight from brain to mic to you. And that's kind of scary, because it's like kind of having someone hooked up to your brain, and all the thoughts that you filter through are not getting filtered for me. They're just coming straight out. But yeah, I'm so freaking excited to be on season 2. I just felt like 30 episodes was a natural end. I don't know why. I got to the 30th episode and I was like, you know what? Season 1 is good. Like I'm done with season 1. It's time to move to season 2. And some people take long breaks. Some people put a gap in between it. I didn't really want to take a break necessarily from podcasting. I just felt like the season 1 chapter had come to an end, and I have more to say. However, it's time for season 2, and I like to feel fresh starts. I love January 1st. I love the day after my birthday. It's the start of a new year. I love to begin new things. So it's just kind of reinvigorated me to kind of lock in more and refocus in on what I stand for, what I'm promoting, who I am, who I want to be, the things that I'm doing in my life, all the things that I'm going through as a woman in life right now. Like, I'm in the process of transitioning to being plant-based. I'm doing all the research, I'm reading all the books, watching all the documentaries. Everything that I've read, watched, listened to, learned, it's foolproof. Everyone should be plant-based if you want to live a long and healthy life. Of course, there's better ways to do it than others, but it's just hard because it's so easy to not eat plant-based. The whole world is kind of set up with animal products. So it's really getting to the point where I love myself enough to not put things that I know. Now I know these things. Like, I genuinely know these things are harmful to my health, to my body, to the longevity of my health and my body, and my brain function, and having quality years in my elderly life. And I feel like I'm taking steps towards it every single day. Of course, there's days that are setbacks, and the ice cream that my roommates have in the freezer starts calling out to me, and I can't resist. But it's, again, not blaming yourself, not beating yourself up, but holding yourself accountable and having compassionate forgiveness. I accept that I gave into my need. Not in my needs, because it's not even a need. I gave into my wants today, and that's okay. I just got to clean it up, tighten it up, and not make the same choices tomorrow if I want to live the life that I know I want to live. And I think that's just kind of an approach that we should take with everything that we go through in life, is compassionate forgiveness. And mistakes only help you redefine who you are and what you want to be and what you want to do, as long as you actually learn from them. So I welcome mistakes. I welcome failure. I welcome constructive criticism and a chance to better myself and be a better human out in the world, to the people that I meet, be a better human to myself, to my friends, to my family. It's never something that ends. It's a constant journey. It's constant work. It's also constant moving energies. You could be doing self-work while other people are doing self-work, so they're meeting you kind of where you're at, or you're meeting them where they're at. Or you can have someone that's completely in the dark that's in your life, that's not doing any self-work. And I think those are some of the hardest people for me, because I meet them with such love. People who their trauma is completely in their blind spot. They have made no attempt to heal anything. They are band-aiding. And those are the people that are the most volatile and lash out at you the most. And it's almost, to me, like, I don't even get upset with those people anymore when they lash out. If anything, I feel genuinely bad, because I think to myself, how hurt do you have to be lashing out at other people like this? How much hurt do you have to be going through yourself for you to even desire to hurt someone else like that, or to even be in that mindset that allows you to be destructive to others and destructive in the end to yourself? I meet people like that with such love and compassionate forgiveness, because at the end of the day, we've all been the villain in someone's story once or twice, maybe a few times. And if we can just all kind of have empathy and not judge people for who they are, what they've been through, or not take anyone else's trauma dumping personally, the world would be a much better place. Like, my mom used to describe it with me and my dad, because they've been together for 34 years. A lot of people always ask them how they're still together, what's the secret, XYZ, etc., all the things people want to know in order to have a long, healthy marriage. And two things always stuck out to me that she would say. And she would say, it's constant work to get back on the same page. People are constantly changing, evolving, growing, all the different things. So it's important with your partner to remember that you have to get back on the same page. At the end of the day, you're both fighting for the relationship. So if it seems like you're at odds, it's not so much that you're fighting against each other, but that you need to have a conversation about understanding what the other person's fighting for and not try to win. You should never be trying to win in a relationship and make your partner lose. Why would you ever want your partner or your teammate to lose? So it's really understanding that we're working together, and if we're having a disagreement, it's because we need to get back on the same page, not because there is anyone trying to tank the relationship in this situation. And the second thing that always stuck out to me was my mom would always say, like, when her and my dad would go through something, you kind of look at each other and you see who's handling it worse. And whoever's taking it worse, it's up to the other person to kind of be strong for that person. And that's why community is important. That's why family is important. That's why having a solid group of friends are important. Because sometimes in a relationship, you do need to be the brace holding your partner up. Hey! Come here. Stop it. Would it even be season 2 without Joopy hopping up to the mic? Yeah? You say hi? Say, hi, Spillers. Welcome to season 2. I'm your host, Jupiter. But yeah, if you and your partner are both going through something traumatic, it is sometimes up to one of you to support the other and hold them up, embrace them, and really kind of put your empathy shoes on and be there for them, and not so much make it about yourself, especially if it's something that's not about you. But yeah, I've gotten into another tangent about relationships. Self-explanatory. But I just really wanted to take a second, Spillers, to sit here and thank you, to thank all the women that have come on my show, to thank every single person that has listened, watched, downloaded, reviewed, commented, followed the Instagram account, showed any type of love to this page, to this podcast in its totality. Thank you so much. I could not do any of this without all of you, and I will forever be grateful to you. Whether this is the last episode that you watch, whether this is the first episode that you watch, if this is the first one, go back and watch season 1. It's fucking fire. The women are amazing. I can't wait for you guys to see some of the women coming up on season 2 that I've already shot with. And yeah, as per usual, I am Tori212 Green on all platforms. Tea with Tori podcast on Instagram. Tea with Tori on YouTube. Please go like, download, subscribe, give 5 stars, give a little rating, a comment, whatever you feel called to do. Please do so. Any of your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you guys again so fucking much for supporting me and supporting Tea with Tori podcast. And cheers to freaking season 2. I cannot wait for y'all to get into this. Let's fucking go. See you next week, Spillers. Tato, did you like that episode? You came in on the end. How do you feel about it?